when we see you here waiting for us on screen, okay, I'll pull you into the live stream and you can ask your question live. In the meantime, we're going to answer some questions and then we will break if somebody wants to jump in. All right. That link again is in the post and it's also in the message that I sent to you. All right. Yay. And okay. And also let's all say hi to Stephanie, who's in the background here, moderating everything for us and making this all run so nice and smoothly. Thank you, Steph. All right. Questions. Ready?
Yeah. Shall I get started with
Yeah. Ask me something.
Okay. I feel like a newsreader. So there was actually a lot of questions that came in. We had one from Misty, from Jessica, from Trinity, that was all about how to increase milk production. So some ideas on how mamas can increase the amount of milk.
Okay, so this is usually the most asked question. And so I wasn't surprised to see that when we went through all the questions, like half of them really were asking the same thing, right? About how to increase supply.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer this in a couple different ways. First, I'm going to say that that most issues with low milk supply there are different categories of low milk supply. And I explained, I have a whole course. It's called low milk supply. It's very complex, right? Low milk supply. And in the course, I talk about there are 3 different types of low milk supply. One would be like, a physiological reason, like a physical reason for the supply where you may have a hormonal issue, you may have a structural issue, you may have had breast surgery that causes. So there's low milk supply that's caused by a physical condition. And that can also be from the baby as well. If there's a tethered oral tissue, a tongue tie, lip ties, things like that. That's the first kind. The second kind is the kind that is a result of something that you're doing. So it could be a improper latch. It could be waiting too long between feedings. It could be early supplementation with formula when it wasn't necessary. So things that are like what we call a secondary low milk supply, it actually occurred because of something that, not to your fault, but something that you're doing or did, or someone advised you to do, that then cause the secondary issue as a low milk supply, right? So the first is the primary, the second one is the secondary issue. The third type of low milk supply is actually the most common type, all right? And that is the perceived low milk supply, all right? And that's what I see with most people. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't some people who have low milk supply because they have some medical condition. These are very small percentage of people, or that they didn't do something that caused it. And there really is now an issue that we need to deal with. But for the vast majority of breastfeeding moms, the low milk supply issue is a perceived one, which means that you think you need to be making way more milk than what you're actually making. And that somehow is not enough for your baby, all right? That sometimes happens because you're either looking at a baby who's maybe not settling so easily after the feeding and thinking, well, every cry must be hunger. Or you're looking at your baby and you're saying, and your pediatrician may be telling you, the baby needs to be gaining an ounce a day, every single day, and several pounds a month for there to be enough supply, right? That too, not the case. All right. So sometimes it's just unrealistic expectations of how fast your baby should be growing. The other unrealistic expectations have to do with pumping and thinking that what you pump is an indication of how much you're actually making, which is a very difficult thing because your baby's usually going to get out way more than your pump is. And then the last thing is pumping and thinking that when you see 3 ounces in the bottle or 4 ounces, that somehow there should be more than that. All right. So I just went over quite a bit about low milk supply and not really answering the question of how do I increase it? Because for so many of you, and I would say if we were to look at like the 5 people who asked this question, probably 4 out of the 5 of them may be really just dealing with a perceived issue. If you're having something other than a perceived issue, the first thing you need to do is you need to reach out to a international board certified lactation consultant. You need to be working with someone. in order to handle the low milk supply issue. If it really is that, then your baby needs to eat. That means we need to be doing something else to feed your baby while you're increasing your supply. The very best way to increase milk supply, the best way, okay, is for you to feed more frequently. All right. Frequent, even short but frequent feedings are going to quickly start to increase supply if this is due to a secondary issue. That means that if it's something you're doing and your supply was okay and now it diminished, that by doing those frequent feedings and keeping your breast empty all the time. How do you do that? You feed a lot. You feed all the time. You're pumping all the time. So frequent feedings, pumping, draining the breast, and frequent expression of milk is what's going to cause and trigger your body to make more milk. All right. So yes, there are teas, and yes, there are cookies, and yes, there are all these things that, you know, and different herbs and different things that can possibly help. There is nothing like keeping the breast empty and drained. Okay. And really, that's where you should be focusing. Even water. Okay. Let me just address that, because I'll see this in my private group all the time. You know, how do I increase my supply? And then you've got like all these moms jumping in and saying, drink tons of water, keep drinking tons of water. And yes, if you are dehydrated, it can decrease your milk supply. But if you are hydrated and your supply is low, drinking more water is not going to increase supply. All right. The very best way to determine whether you're dehydrated is to look at the color of your pee. Yeah. If you have light straw colored pee, it's very light, then most likely it's not a dehydration thing. And drinking a ton of more water is not only going to not increase your supply, but it can actually have the opposite effect. And that's why I say this. Drinking not enough water can cause low milk supply, and drinking too much water can actually cause low milk supply. All right. So as you can see, there's quite a bit to know when it comes to low milk supply. That's why I did a whole course. It's 90 minutes on low milk supply, where I talk about, this is sort of an overview of what I went over, and I go over much more in detail there. I do have one thing I want to pop up on the screen. And I know, Rebecca, I am talking for a long time on this issue, but fine. It is a big one, right?
Yeah. And it's always good to learn some new things.
Look at this image here. Okay. This is a picture of how much a baby, and when we started today, we talked about, like, so much of this is about perception and what's normal. Here's a picture that kind of describes how much a baby typically eats per feeding. Okay. And so many of you have seen this picture before, but some of you haven't. The one all the way to the left is how much your baby's eating on day one, which is just colostrum in very, very small amounts. You can see that little bit right there at the bottom of the bottle there. Okay. The second one is day 2 or day 3, and it's about a half an ounce per feeding. All right. And then so on, day 10. And then the one all the way on the right is how much a baby eats starting somewhere around 6 weeks, where they hit around 6 weeks till weaning. And what I mean by that is somewhere around 6 weeks, they're going to hit that 3 to 4 ounce, sometimes 5, it depends, but mostly I would say on average about 4 ounces. And they hit that time, that amount per feeding, and it doesn't increase from there. So unlike formula feeding, where the feedings grow and grow and grow and get bigger into these 6, 8, 9 ounce feedings, breast milk is completely different. And so I want you to just take this picture in for a minute, take a look at those images, and realize that, you know, if you're using these big 9 ounce bottles, there's a good chance that the whole thing, you know, it's like, is the bottle half empty or half full or all full? In a 5 ounce bottle, it will be the proper amount that should be fed to your breastfed baby. All right. So there's some information about how to increase supply. Feed more, right? Feed more, stay hydrated, and make sure that you are sticking within normal parameters to determine whether it's perceived or a real issue. And if it is a real issue, get some help.
Definitely. I would also say that if you are pumping and exclusively pumping, or pumping for whilst you're at work, that they need to check out your video on pumping, power pumping, because that is going to help you get multiple letdowns at each pumping session. Because that's when you can, that's sometimes when people will feel that they're not making enough is when they're pumping. So you have a video all about that that's available, which is the power pumping.
I actually have it queued up here, which I'll show later on in the show. How about that?
Yes, great idea.
We were going to do it last time, and I think something happened and we didn't get to play it. But let's play it later. If you guys want to see the three-stage pumping video for multiple letdowns that Rebecca's referring to, I'll play it towards the end. And yeah, it's such a good point. You're right, 100% right on that. You know, it's about getting the milk out. So it's not just about feeding or not just about pumping. When I say pump or feed frequently, that means express.
Yeah.
Express frequently.
Yeah, because you can sit there with the pump on and get a dribble, and you just get that half an ounce, and then you're like, well, I'm not producing enough.
Exactly.
I'm not, and how do I increase my supply? Yep. That's not necessarily a supply issue. That's a how to get it out of your boob issue.
Exactly. Exactly. We have Brittany. Oh, we got two people now. Brittany jumped in first, and then Cassandra. We got people waiting in the wings here. I'm gonna go ahead and bring them in, Rebecca.
Yeah, great.
Because I know they're always on a time limit with their babies right there, right?
Exactly.
All right. So Brittany's first because she jumped in about 3 seconds before Cassandra, and then we'll bring Cassandra in. Okay. So here you go, Brittany. Hold on. Here we go. Brittany's first because she jumped in about 3 seconds. There you go. Cassandra. Now we just need to turn off whatever sound you have going on there. Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, Brittany. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, sweetheart? I think she's listening to the show itself.
I see.
All right.
My question was regarding the amount of baby food. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. I can't hear you very well. So go a little closer to whatever you're talking into the microphone. All right. She's on the delay. She's watching the phone.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me through this?
I can.
Okay, go ahead. Great. Just turn off your volume on your wherever you're watching us.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, great. What's your question?
My 8-week-old was eating 3.5 ounces per bottle feed. I'm exclusively pumping, but now he's gone down to 2.5, and I was just wondering if that was normal.
Awesome. Yeah. No, you said how old? 8 weeks?
Yes.
8 weeks. Okay. Yeah. And did you notice that maybe the feedings are he's wanting to eat a little sooner?
It's usually about every 3 hours.
Okay. Okay, great. So, here's the thing. When you're exclusively pumping, you're actually seeing how much the baby's eating. Whereas if you were nursing at the breast, it's irrelevant because you cannot see it at all, right? So, So imagine if you were breastfeeding exclusively and not pumping, would you if you think of it from that perspective, would you be able to tell anything or know anything that's different right now?
No.
Right. So he's eating exactly the same time frames and acting the same way?
Yeah.
And peeing and pooping the same?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that kind of answers your question right there, and here's why it answers the question. So the breast milk changes over time. It changes back and forth. Babies go through growth spurts where they need more milk and then they need less milk. And sometimes it even has to do with the weather. Okay. So if you're in a hot climate and the baby's needing more hydration, the breast milk actually becomes more watery, and the baby might even want to take more because of that. Okay. If you are pumping so if you're feeding the baby in the morning versus feeding the baby at night, depending on when they eat, that could actually determine how hungry they are. These are all things that you would never be able to see if you were nursing at the breast. But since you're pumping, there's just a lot more to evaluate. And what I would recommend to you is that instead of looking at the quantities, okay, like we were just discussing, because every baby's different, and actually your milk is different. It can go from being more watery, lower in calorie, to higher fat, more creamy at another time where they just don't need as much. if you were to just look at the baby and all the parameters that we talk about when it comes to, is your baby getting enough, like their satisfaction of coming with the feeding, are they staying satisfied for a few hours till the next feeding, are they peeing, are they pooping, all those things. As long as all those things are there, I would try to treat that the same way as you would if you were nursing at the breast, and don't evaluate too much. Because it's going to change. It's going to change. Just like the color of the milk could be different, right? So one day it could look really white and creamy. Another day it could look bluish and more watery. All those things change that we normally wouldn't see. And so you really want to put the whole picture together. Was the baby maybe not feeling well for a little while?
Yeah, he had a cold.
He had a cold. Okay. And that was when he was eating more or when he was eating less?
When he was eating more.
Yeah, and so it could be that this is how the baby really is so smart. Like, so he had a cold and probably a little dehydrated, and the baby knows, and the baby's body's telling him, drink a little more, need some more fluid. And so it's if you were to look at, okay, what else is going on in our life right now, it'll probably give you clues to why that's happening.
Okay.
But really nothing to worry about. As long as he's peeing and pooping and doing well and seeming satisfied and everything else is good, I would say just keep on doing what you're doing, Mama. You're doing an awesome job. It's hard to exclusively pump.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you're doing a great job. Really great job. Thanks for jumping in.
No problem.
All right. Great. Nice seeing you.
Mm-hmm.
Such a perfect, exactly what we were just talking about. It's like, is there enough? And looking at just the volume of milk versus like all the other things that really go into it. There are people waiting in the wings, Rebecca.
That's fine. They're great. I love it.
Okay, good. Let's see. We're going to bring Cassandra in if she's still there. I see a blank screen, but let's see. Okay, Cassandra ran to the bathroom, I think.
That's just exactly what I was thinking. I bet she's gone for a pee.
Cassandra, are you there? I can't see you. All right, I'm going to come back to Cassandra. I think she needed a break. Okay, while she's waiting. And we're going to go to Tia because Tia's waiting for us here. So let me go down. And I see Tia is, okay, hold on a second. Here we go. Let's bring Tia in. Okay. There she is. Hi, Tia.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I saw that belly when I was watching you through here. So I want to say, ooh, congratulations. You're almost due, huh?
Yeah, 38 weeks.
Yay!
Awesome. Congrats. How exciting.
It's my first, so I just wanted to ask for tips how to get through the learning phase and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us what your question is. And, you're in such a perfect place, Tia. I mean, coming in now with your first baby before you actually deliver to ask your questions and be part of the community and connect up with Rebecca and I, you could not be doing the anything better for yourself right now. So it's fantastic.
Thanks. I was wondering about if, how will I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I suppose. And if something goes wrong, what am I going to do? I can't think of anything but panic if I feel like something's going wrong, like at 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah. You mean just in general, sweetheart?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm going to have to do this by myself, just me and baby, and never done it before.
Yeah. So I'm sure I'll speak for a minute. I'm sure Rebecca has some just mother advice as well too. We both have 2 daughters that are teenagers. So we've been mothers for a while now. I have a 17-year-old and almost 15-year-old. I can't even believe that they're that old already. But just as mom to mom, here's what I want to tell you. Just the fact that you're asking this question. Okay, I really want you to take in what I'm saying to you. Just the fact that you're even asking, that you're even curious to know, like, how am I going to know that I'm doing the right thing? How am I going to know that I'm making the right choices? How am I going to know if there's something wrong with my baby? Just the fact that you want to know right now that you're asking it means you're already an amazing good mom. Because that's what's going to guide you. Okay, it's that thought inside of you. It's what we all have when your baby comes out, that Your baby's born with, and you have instincts, and you have knowledge that's inside of you, okay, that's part of you as a mom, just by the fact that you just had a baby, that is that wisdom, all right, that we get passed down through our genetics, so that internal wisdom of knowing that we know our babies and we know how to take care of our babies. That doesn't mean that you'll have all the answers. It doesn't mean that you're going to feel confident in every moment of like, oh my God, I know everything. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the question will come up just like it is right now. And when those questions come up, that's going to be your trigger to seek the answer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I can't tell you you're going to know the answer, but I am going to tell you that you'll know to ask the question. And because you will, and because you're like knowing who to connect with as an expert, or, knowing where to turn and having this community now, you will find those answers when you need them most.
Mm-hmm.
And I only know that, I know that from working with thousands and thousands of new moms, but I also know that from myself and my own experience as being a mom, that, even with all the knowledge I had when I had my baby, I was already a midwife, but still it was mostly my motherly instincts that were kicking in, not my knowledge of what I learned in school. I'll tell you that with my own kids. And now with teenagers, I really never learned this in school. So I'm always going on my instincts, and we're constantly learning as mothers and evolving with our children. So I just want you to put your mind at ease that you're already there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thanks.
Rebecca?
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with everything that you've said. I think a parent who is open to suggestions and is wondering if you're going to be a good parent means that you are a good parent. It just does. One thing I would suggest is to find the people who you like. Hopefully you kind of like us as you're here. That's kind of nice. And then keep those as your go-to for when you are looking for support and you are looking for advice. And it may be that you are going to be searching online at 2 a.m. because that's always when questions are going to come up, is, when sort of things are a little bit crazy and you can't just call somebody. But that means then that when you're going to that person who you like and who you trust and whose wisdom you trust, you're not going to be getting conflicting advice because you Google anything, especially at 2 a.m., there are a bazillion different pages that come up. And that's very, very confusing because you're even more confused than you already were when you had your question initially. So if you have your trusted pages that you can go to, so have those bookmarked so that you can then go onto Shari's website and search. You can go onto my website and search. Then you're going to be getting that advice, that's something that's kind of gels with you and that your parenting philosophy, and that's going to then help guide you to feeling just that little bit more, because a lot of it is kind of confidence, as Shari said, where she has, she's kind of done it all, and when you have your own kids, it's so very different. And that's the same for me. I cared for hundreds and hundreds of kids. And when I was pregnant, I was just like, I'm going to be the best mother ever. And then after I gave birth, it was like, oh my gosh, this is something else. It was completely something else. And so, but we got to remember, every single mother who becomes a mother for the first time, we're all the same. We're all the same. And no matter how much kind of education you have or you don't have on childbirth and breastfeeding and sleep and cloth diapers or whatever, we're all becoming mothers for the first time. And the human race is still here. So there's something inside of us that really works well. It works really, really well because we didn't kind of, die out with the dodo. We sort of are now, we're still here and we're thriving. So trust yourself and your instincts. Shari, I have a question for you. What is one thing you'd wished you'd known when you were this pregnant, when you were 38 weeks pregnant? What did you wish you'd known?
Everything that's in my Simply Breastfeeding class. I'm going to be honest with you. Like I was a midwife. When I had my first daughter, I wasn't a lactation consultant. I was a nurse midwife. I was focused on pregnancy and birth. And so, of course, when I was pregnant, like so many moms, when you're like 38 weeks like you are right now, you're just thinking, just get me through the delivery. And that's why I'm saying the fact that you're asking the question about what comes next puts you ahead of the game. Most new moms are like, I just want to get through the birth. and then I'll figure it out later, you know? But I guess what I should have been thinking about was what came next. And breastfeeding was really, really important to me. Like I really wanted to breastfeed. And I think I was very unprepared for, even with all my knowledge, I was very unprepared and lacking in confidence too, as well. That I think would have helped me a lot to really be able to trust myself. So I needed knowledge and I needed a confidence, and then I needed more of the, well, I had the commitment. So that was the one thing I did have. When I did breastfeed, and I exclusively breastfed both my kids for well over a year. I made it work, but I could have enjoyed and had an easier time in those first few months had I known more. And so like some of the things I went over earlier in the Q&A were some of those things I didn't know. But Simply Breastfeeding, which is free. Okay, so Tia, did you watch it already?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the course is completely free, sweetheart. If I could give you one piece of advice, just one, go watch the course today. Okay, it's over an hour. It's broken down into 10 chapters. It will give you what you need to know. It's meant for watching during pregnancy. So if you watch that, it's going to give you all those things that you didn't know that are going to make the difference, I promise, when the baby's born. And then you can watch it again when you have your baby. And then you can come back to the community here, join the Facebook group with me. And I'm about to launch my membership group so that if you want to learn more with me and stick with me and we can keep going over some of these things, we can do that. But right now, the one thing I wish I had was my class, and I didn't have it. That's why I made it for you.
Thanks.
And Shari's hair is amazing in that video.
It was amazing. I had very curly hair back then.
You never know. When you watch a video with Shari, you never know what style you're going to get. I love it.
You know what? It's always the same style. The look might be different, but the style is always the same. Always the same. The inner style, right? The inner style.
Yeah. And I'll just say the one thing I wish I'd known when I was that pregnant was that it's actually okay not to instantly fall in love with your baby. I had been reading online and I was in forums and all of this stuff. This was kind of before Facebook. I was in these forums, and then I'd read birth stories and it'd be, oh, and I gave birth and they put the baby on my chest and I instantly fell in love. And when they sort of put the baby on my chest, I was just a bit like, oh, okay, it's a baby. And it took probably a week or so before that kind of kicked in. And there was me kind of doubting myself because I'd read about this huge rush of love and, oh, I was going to protect you over everything. And I was just like, I'm not feeling that. What's wrong with me as a mother? And so I wish I'd known that that was okay, and that's completely normal, because it is.
And then you still love your children in the end. I mean,
totally, even when they're teenagers.
We're wishing you all the best, sweetheart. Please, are you part of my Facebook group?
Probably.
Yeah, My Baby Experts community.
Maybe not.
Okay. Please make sure you go join today. Okay. And then there'll be links there. There's also links when you type baby here in the comments. You'll get the link to my breastfeeding class right there. You'll get the link to Rebecca's thing, and then also links to the group. So just typing baby, you'll get a message from me today.
Okay.
Okay. And then
Good luck.
Want to know how things go for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Aw.
What a great question.
Perfect. So perfect. I'm so glad that she jumped in like that, just to get that support and for everyone to hear that, because they were just such great questions and such great information that everyone needs to hear.
Yeah. And everybody has probably had the exact same questions.
Totally. Cassandra's back on camera here, but I wanted to take a minute just to talk about Love to Dream for a minute, one of our sponsors. That's going to be our prize today. And so if you've never seen the Love to Dream products, here's a little preview of what you got. These are the swaddle ups. All right. This is the special swaddle that swaddles your baby with the arms in the up position, which is really how babies want to be swaddled, okay? And this allows baby to self-soothe, and it allows them to bring their hands to their face and do what they need to do. And then what you see next to that is the transition. It's the 50-50, where you can start to release one arm at a time, usually around when they start to roll over, somewhere between 3 to 4 months. You want to make sure that you're starting to allow baby to have their hands. And so the 50-50 does that. So these are just a few pictures of the Love to Dream, which we love, not only the products, but the people. Most amazing group, okay? And we're just so happy to work with them. Both Rebecca and I do, and we've been doing that for a long time. So if you want to win the Love to Dream, you'll get your choice. We'll give you whatever you choose. And you just need to comment here, tell us why you love them. And let's go to Cassandra. Can we bring Cassandra in here? Here we go. And hopefully she has a sleeping question for you. Hi, Cassandra.
Hi.
Hi. We came to you before, but I think you had taken a little break.
I had.
That's fine.
We'll let you off. She started to cry.
We understand. Ask your questions.
I actually have 2 questions. One breastfeeding and one sleeping.
Okay.
The first is breastfeeding. What would be your best advice to get to your breastfeeding goal?
To get to your breastfeeding goal? What is your breastfeeding goal? Would you say a year? You're breaking up, unfortunately. I can't really. Okay. The video's cutting in and out. Let me just answer your question. So the best advice I could give you to reach your breastfeeding goal, whatever that is. So if you said a year, great, whatever your goals are. One is I start in the Simply Breastfeeding course that I was just talking to Tia about. The very first thing that I have you do is set your goals and talk about what is your breastfeeding goal, and to keep your mind open, because so many people are they underestimate what they can do. You know, they sell themselves short. They say, well, if I could just breastfeed for the first month, I would be happy just to get through that. You know, and then I say, just try to think of the most ideal situation. Like, what would be your best goal if you just didn't have any barriers at all? So the first thing is actually allowing yourself to set those goals and set them big for yourself so that you have something to shoot for. So that would be the first thing. And to reaching those goals, really, it's about knowledge. It's about having the right information. It's about dispelling all the myths so that you're not going to think about the first thing I said about low milk supply. You know, without the right knowledge, can you see how in one moment you could think there's not enough milk when there was, start supplementing unnecessarily when you didn't have to. And then the supplement itself decreases your supply where now you actually need it. And so by having knowledge, that's like a perfect example of not having proper knowledge, which is actually not complicated. It's quite simple. I mean, it's like I don't know, do you see my posts on Facebook? Do you follow me all the time and read the posts that I put out? She can't, she's frozen. But anyway, if you look at what I put out there, so much of it is about dispelling myths and putting out facts that are simple facts. Or like the picture I put up before that shows you just how much a baby eats. These are not complicated concepts. They're actual real information. Why is it that so many moms don't know this? And that's a problem. So having the knowledge is the first thing. The second thing is having the confidence that your body can do this. We lost Cassandra, but I'm going to answer anyway. Having the confidence that you were made to breastfeed. I know we read a lot about all these people who just can't make enough milk to feed their babies. Again, remember what I said earlier. The most common reason for low milk supply is perceived or secondary, which means we did something to cause it. Okay. It is just not genetically possible that the majority or a large majority or even half or even close to half of the women cannot make enough milk to feed their babies. It is not how we have evolved. It is not the way that mammals live or flourish. Okay, this is not what happens in other animals. All right, and it's not possible that it's just women here in the United States that just don't make enough milk. I'm going to be very controversial here, but other places in the world, they're making enough milk when they're breastfeeding, the large majority. That, again, doesn't mean that there aren't some women who have that primary condition. Okay, but it is a small percentage versus a large percentage in this idea that it's okay. Now, the second part of it is, you know, we know that women in this country have more challenges because we don't have the maternity leave. So we don't want to ignore that issue. And that is a big issue. And again,
huge.
That's one of the biggest barriers, you know.
Yeah.
So having the right information and then setting yourself up right so that if you have to go back to work, that you have the right pump, that you know how to use it, that you reach out for support, that you're getting all the information that you need to support yourself. That's how you're going to reach your goals. Join the community. Join this community. Rebecca, she didn't get to ask her. I've been talking the whole time. She didn't get to ask her sleep question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you a sleep question right now, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Vicky, we need to ask you a question. Okay, so here's a sleep question for Rebecca. Catherine said, I've heard that once a baby sleeps through the night without a feeding, you should continue to do so even if the child wakes up. My baby has been sleeping through the night since 6 weeks old and now is 15 weeks old. He's waking up every 4 to 6 hours. The pacifier normally puts him back to sleep. I'm afraid if I feed him, he'll regress. Is that fact or fiction?
Complete fiction. Really is. So when you think about how much a baby is feeding during the day, and this is totally it, I'm sure that you can chime in as well with this because there's quite a bit of this to do with feeding, is just when your child was this age, they were able to get the amount of milk that they needed all during the day, and therefore they were able to connect those sleep cycles. They were able to sleep through the night, remembering that the majority are not. It's completely normal that your child is not sleeping through the night at 6 weeks of age. And then as they grow, they need more calories just because they're bigger. So even if they're not moving, they need more calories just to survive. And if they are not getting those extra calories during the day, then they will need them during the nighttime. They just will. The child is never, ever going to miss out on a feed ever. If they don't get it during the day, it kind of gets pushed into bedtime. And that's where we kind of see then that nights get disturbed. A lot of times I see this when children will... normally kind of around 6-8 months when children will have so distracted, they're not feeding during the day. So they're waking up more often to get those calories at nighttime because they just don't have the patience to sit down and feed because they want to be into everything. They're not missing out ever on calories. So waking up again during the night is, if they're hungry, just feed your child because they need those calories. And it actually then means that they're going to be able to get back to sleep pretty darn quickly because they're then not going to have a rumbly tummy, which could be causing them to just be awake for very, very long periods of time. Or they may fall back asleep and then wake up quickly, fall back asleep and wake up quickly. That's due to hunger as well. So I would say that if your child is hungry, just feed them, even if they have been able to go for long periods of time. You would do that if you woke up and you were hungry during the night. You'd eat something. You'd have a drink, you'd eat something because you were hungry. It's just tough that we can't tell what's going on in that little tummy and how hunger is really kind of impacting wake ups.
Totally. No, so well said. And like it drives me crazy because when I think of like the idea of we have to kind of figure out whether we should feed or not, and some of this comes from like other people's advice of like, if they're sleeping, don't feed them. Even if they wake up, don't feed. Your baby is 15 weeks old. I mean, the baby is guiding you as to what the baby needs. There really are no rules about like, no, if they were sleeping before and now they wake up that you don't, the baby's hungry and you will know whether the baby's hungry or not. You know how? When you go to feed them and if they don't want it, then you know that, that wasn't what they wanted. So I would always recommend if your baby's like crying, if your baby is waking up, if your baby is, and it's been a little bit of time between since your last feeding, or even if it hasn't, say it's only been an hour, it still doesn't matter. Baby could be going through a growth spurt, and usually is. So I would say that the only way to know whether your baby is hungry or not, whether you should decide to feed them, is to go feed them. And then let them decide. If they go on the breast and they fall asleep immediately, and it really was just about needing a little soothing, then you'll have your answer. If the baby goes to the breast and wants to eat, the baby was hungry. And the only baby can answer that. Don't let the pediatrician answer that for you. Don't let your mother-in-law answer that for you. Don't let your neighbor or anyone else. Only your baby knows when your baby is hungry. You ask your baby by doing it.
As well, remember that breastfeeding is not just about calories in either. There's that whole attachment and soothing and everything else that comes with a breastfeed as well. So it may not be that necessarily hunger is a real issue, but they just kind of wanted to just kind of be hanging out and that closeness. And that is very important developmentally. It's very important for attachment and everything else that happen. And though it's kind of, when your baby starts sleeping through the night and you kind of do your little sort of happy dance that you think, yes, finally we've got there, whether it's at 6 weeks, 6 months, or, you know, a year old. But you kind of got to expect that it's going to go, that they're going to sort of be not necessarily needing feeding, but needing some support during the night. And that goes on for years and years that they, you know, that they are going to need. And it doesn't mean it's sort of every hour, every night for 6 years, but it's going to be at least once, twice a week that you're going to need to support your child during the night for that duration of time. Yep.
And someone saying, Miriam saying, is it, no, wait, Tiffany said, my baby's gaining weight quickly, so I worry about overfeeding. I wouldn't ever worry about that when the baby's exclusively eating at the breast. So yes, we can overfeed when it comes to bottle feeding, which I'm going to answer another question in a minute. But when it comes to the baby eating at the breast, the idea that the baby's gaining weight quickly, breastfed babies can gain quickly in those first 6 months or 4 months. So sometimes we'll see these babies gaining very quickly. Some don't, but some do. And then even when I've seen breastfed babies that are enormous by 6 months. And it's like, we're in size 4 diapers. Like, I don't even know where we're going to go with this. And what happens is they start to stretch out and slim out. And by the time of the year, they really do slim out. So it's very common. My nephew was like that. He gained 5 pounds in 1 month once.
Wow.
Yeah, from the age of like 1 month to 2 months, that visit between 1 month and 2 months, he gained 5 pounds. And my sister was exclusively breastfeeding him at the breast, like had no idea until they went in, except she knew he got so much bigger. 5 pounds. And you know, it was like the pediatrician said, well, this is nearly impossible, but I guess it's not because you did it.
It's happened.
Ice cream. You're making ice cream out of your breast, you know, and he was enormous. He was enormous for the first 6 months. And then by the time he hit a year, he was this lean, skinny kid and still is. He's almost 16. And, you know, you can't worry about like, oh, my baby's gaining too fast. Let me hold back the feedings. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So don't worry about that. And then Miriam said, is it the same rule for bottle feeding? And the answer is no. No, that's very different.
Yeah, that's a great question to know.
With bottle feeding, you can overfeed. And so you know, think about it. When you put your baby to the breast, when they're not hungry, you can't force them to eat. You can force them to hold their face at the breast. You can put them there, but you can't make them suck in a way that will actually get milk out if they're not hungry. They can suck to just suck and never even express any milk. But with a bottle, you're putting it into their mouth. Once it goes in, it's pouring, they have to swallow. You can force feed them. And so you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're pace feeding with all your bottle feedings, that you're, you know, stopping frequently, that you're sitting the baby in a more upright position. You're not pouring it down their throat, and you're giving the baby time to decide if they really want more. And that's part of pace feeding that, you know, you want to learn that. You can just Google pace feeding if you're interested in what I'm talking about. We have another person waiting in the wings.
Great.
Everybody's jumping in today, and I love it. I love seeing
Excellent.
So we've got Morgan coming in here. Morgan, I'm going to pull you in. Here we go. Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
How are you?
I have, 2 questions. My first question is, we're currently battling, my 3-week-old and I are currently battling thrush.
Ooh.
And my main question is, how do I prevent it from happening again? Because it's not very comfortable.
Oh my God, it's the worst. It's horrible. I'm
And,
sorry.
my second question is, my son and I, my youngest son and I, we co-sleep. And sometimes I put him in the swaddle sack, sometimes I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be better not to have him in the swaddle sack while we are co-sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it really matter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why don't I answer the first question, Rebecca, and you can answer the second question?
Sounds good.
So thrush, so what Morgan's referring to for everybody who's watching is thrush is a yeast infection of the breast and also can be in the baby's mouth as well, the thrush, the yeast. And so just like, it's different than mastitis. It's not a bacterial infection. And everybody needs to understand that it's different because the very thing that can treat a bacterial infection is the thing that causes the thrush, which is antibiotics. And so did you have any antibiotic? How old is your baby, first of all?
He's 3 weeks and 4 days old.
3 weeks.
He's
Okay. Did you have antibiotics during your pregnancy or while you were in labor?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
There was a test there was a shot or something they were supposed to give me at 36 weeks that they didn't know if they gave me or not.
Mm-hmm.
So as a precaution, they gave me antibiotics.
What they were supposed to do was do a culture. Okay. They do a culture for something called Group E strep. And then if they culture it and it comes back negative, you wouldn't need the antibiotics. If it comes back positive, you would. And since they didn't do it, they had to err on the side that you had possible, because a third of the population is positive for Group E strep, so which can be dangerous to the baby. So that's why they gave you IV antibiotics while you were in labor. And that's most likely the cause of your thrush right now, unfortunately. All right. Okay. So I want you to just be aware of that because it's so important for you to know that it's causing that, so nobody gives you antibiotics unnecessarily. Sometimes the physicians are actually treating thrush or misdiagnosing your yeast infection with a breast mastitis infection and then giving you more antibiotics on top of it.
Okay. And see, I've had mastitis before with my first son, and that's not the same thing as thrush.
It's not the same thing. And so with thrush, the symptoms are different. It's painful nipples.
So painful.
It's very painful nipples. It's also sharp shooting pains in between feedings, where you'll actually have pain in your breast, in between the feedings. Sometimes you'll see it in the baby's mouth, like white patchiness on the baby's tongue. And thrush can be really difficult to treat. So a couple things. One is no antibiotics, please. Okay. Second thing is, are you taking a good probiotic?
I eat a lot of yogurt, but no, I do not.
Okay. I would start taking probiotics yourself. The other thing is that you want to, while you're treating, and are you getting any treatment at all right now? Are you seeing a lactation consultant? Are you seeing your physician over this or your midwife?
My son and I are actually both on, he's on the cream, the oral for his mouth.
Yep.
And he has the Nice Stop powder for his bottom.
Yep.
And then I have the cream, and I'm also taking a
Diflucan.
Yes.
Okay, good. So there's topicals like you're talking about, and then there's medication like Diflucan, which is an antifungal, not an antibiotic. Okay. And what the thing to know with the Diflucan is that we can use that for vaginal yeast infections, but typically that's one dose. All right. And sometimes your doctor is not aware that you need to take at least 14 days of the Diflucan to really treat this yeast. And sometimes even then need to repeat it for another 14 days. So it's not an easy thing to treat. How many days did they give you of the Diflucan?
I believe it was 10 days.
10 days. Okay. And so it's back?
No, I just started it a couple days ago.
Okay. So you were asking, how do I not get it again?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first you need to treat it appropriately so that it's completely gone. That means that 10 days may not be enough. We'll wait and see. But in the meantime, you need to be, as you're treating yourself and you're treating the baby, you need to be really diligent about keeping everything clean. That means all the pacifiers, any nipples if you're using a bottle at all, your breast pads, you need to change your breast pads frequently and wash your bras frequently every day, like so that you're not reinfecting yourself as you're taking the treatment. Okay, that's going to be one of the most important things to do right now while you're on the medication. And then by doing all that and taking the medicine, you're going to see how that treats. But I would say it's not enough days.
Okay.
And you may want to mention that now so that you don't go the 10 days, then stop. Then a week later, you got it back.
It comes back.
You may want to mention it, and you may want to have them look it up to see what is the real recommended treatment for diflucan, which is 14 days and even longer sometimes, so that you get the full course of it to really get rid of the yeast.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I had thrush with my youngest. That is potentially the most painful thing I have ever gone through.
And see, with my oldest, I didn't. My first son and I, we shared a lot of, like, I would let him eat off my plate. Well, he got thrush and I got it orally as well.
Oh gosh.
I've never had it orally as an adult. I didn't know you could get it that way, but I mean, it's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. Do you want to answer her sleep question? I don't even remember what it was. I hope you do.
I do. Of course I do. So she is bed sharing with her little one and was wondering whether she should swaddle or not. So no, you shouldn't be swaddling if you are safely bed sharing. That is part of safely bed sharing, is that you're not swaddling. I would check. The American Academy of Pediatrics obviously do suggest that you don't bed share, but they are also now understanding that people do end up bed sharing for a multitude of reasons, and they are now giving recommendations on how to do it safely. And so one of those is to not be swaddling. Another one would be that you are positioned between sort of, you push the bed up against the wall so that it's just you, wall, baby, and you. Making sure that you have your hair tied back, there's no pillows or covers, making sure that the space is very, very safe. I would check out what the American Academy of Pediatrics are suggesting, what their recommendations are for creating a safe sleep space. And I would suggest that any parent do that, because it may be that if you fall asleep whilst you're breastfeeding and you have no intention of your baby sleeping there, that it could be an unsafe sleep space. So make sure that your sleep space is safe. But remember, the American Academy of Pediatrics are suggesting room sharing for the first 6 to 12 months, but not necessarily bed sharing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for coming in and asking your questions.
Yeah, great questions, and congratulations.
Congratulations too on your baby.
All right.
All right, awesome. I see they're picking winners already for the prizes. I see that.
Awesome.
I think
who won?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think that yes, we do have winners here. I see Nicole won the pump. Let's talk about the pump for a second, because Nicole just won that. This is the advanced double electric breast pump by Evenflo. Okay, and I helped to design this pump, and it has all the features that I personally recommend that you look for when you are choosing your breast pump. I'm going to pull up a picture right here for a minute, because some of you are new and have never heard me say this before, and I think it's really important. A couple of the different features that you want to look for in a breast pump is having multiple flange sizes included in the pump, because having the right size is going to help make the difference of whether you can get your milk out, whether you're in pain. This is such an important piece of it. And although some pumps you can purchase other flanges, it's hard to know which size to get unless you're actually trying it out. And so having the different sizes is super important. Plus, they come in this really nice, soft silicone that is really cushiony on the breast. And if you're interested in learning about why it's important to have comfort when you're pumping, I have a whole webinar on comfort pumping, and I highly recommend that you go and watch it. Regardless of which pump you use, being comfortable is the number one thing that's going to help you get your milk out, okay? Here's some other features that you want to look for. One is a closed system, okay? So there's a barrier, so no milk is getting into the tubing. Having adjustable speed and suction control, so you can do that 3-stage pumping method, which we didn't even show the video today. But that is really important to be able to have control yourself. You know, having letdown buttons and other fancy parts to your pump doesn't always give you complete control in order to stimulate multiple letdowns, and having those independent suction and speed is important. And then definitely having a battery option and the option to plug it in, okay? The battery is an important piece, especially if you're going back to work or using the pump on the go, or just, you know, anything. You have a blackout. You need to be able to, one of the first things we answered today was making sure that, how do you increase your supply? Pump or feed frequently, okay? If pump becomes an impediment to doing that, and being near an outlet is what prevents you from pumping frequently, that'll be a problem. So make sure that you have a battery option with your pump. This one has battery and also car charger. So you can plug it into the wall, you can plug it in the car, and you can also use the battery. And those are all really, really important things, as well as, where's the other, oh, there's the pump in use. These bottle holders that are just really, really convenient, small, lightweight, and convenient. So,
and it's super light. If you're going to be taking that pump back and forwards to work, you want something that you don't need to have like a suitcase on wheels to take it into your office. You want something that's totally lightweight, and that is just perfect. Even with the batteries, it's still really lightweight.
I want to say something too. You know, the advanced double, with the one that I just held up, that's the advanced double that comes with the 3 sizes, and there's just all that. They also now have the advanced single electric and the advanced manual. Okay, and what that means, they're all new. And what that means is that you can use all your same parts, okay, and you just put the single electric motor onto here, so that, or you put the hand pump right onto your parts, and you can use all your different sizes, even with your manual pump.
Ooh.
Everything's interchangeable, and so many moms still need a manual pump, even when they're using their doubles, but especially in those early weeks, or just having that manual, or taking this piece and sticking it into your pump bag when you go to work, in case you had any kind of an issue with the pump or anything else. You always have that ability to express with the manual. And then there's the little, I wanted to show you these, the little colostrum containers, right? So cute. So these actually fit right onto your pump, whether it's your manual or your double electric or your single. And that way, in those early days, remember we were talking about just having half an ounce in the beginning, or, you know, just the colostrum. This is perfect sizing for being able to pump those early few weeks. And they do come with nipples as well, so that you can feed right from this little tiny one, which I think is so cute.
It is super cute.
So there you go. So cute. Yes, they're all saying a manual pump is a must. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that 1000%. So congrats to our winners. And thank you so much for all being here with us today. This was fun. This was good. Everybody, so many people jump in. It's getting to be more, everybody's understanding how to do it at this point, I think. And took a few rounds, right?
Yep, maybe 1 or 2.
But we'd love to see more of you jump in. We're going to be doing some of these into the private group, and that's a great place for you to jump in. It may be a little more private, where you'll feel more comfortable jumping in on camera. But we want to see you. It's really important for us. See how much easier it was to answer their questions when we can go back and forth and ask a little bit more information.
And you're going to get your question answered if you're here. If you're just popping your question down, we can't guarantee that we're going to answer that. But if you come to join on live, it's going to be answered.
That is the truth. That little bit of extra jump in definitely makes it happen. So I want to just thank Love to Dream and Evenflo for always providing such amazing prizes and being such amazing partners that help make this information accessible and available to all of you, and have for many, many, many years. So let's just give them a lot of love and a lot of hearts. and realize like that's how this all makes this all happen, is that, you know, we can give you free information, free education, the classes, all that stuff. So let's give them hearts and love. And Rebecca, as always, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you
For joining
Thank
me.
you. Always fun.
Always fun. Always fun. All right. So we love you all, and we will see you soon. And if you haven't already, go join us in My Baby Experts community, and we will continue the conversation. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.